In this video, we're going to import objects that we've either scanned, downloaded, or created, and bring them into Unreal so we can use them in our projects.
Hey, welcome to Real-Time Workflows. I'm MX I worked on Deadpool and Wolverine, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, 1917, Hobbs and Shaw, Wheel of Time, Little Mermaid, No Time to Die, tons more. What you're going to get in the channel are my pro tips and how I use Unreal Engine to make films. So let's get started. Let's make some stuff. See you down the road.
Hey, welcome back to Yes Commissioner. That was very weird, wasn't it? I don't like that hand gesture I just did. Hey, welcome back to Yes Commissioner. No. Hey, welcome back to Real-Time Workflows with me, MX. Let's get on with some importing.
So I've got a folder here that has two objects in it. We've got a drive scan from the other day and we've got T-Bot. Let's do drive scan first. In my content folder, I've got a folder. I put this in my starter pack as my kind of suggested folder structure. It's just called imported. So we're gonna create a folder called drive scan. Now you might have, sometimes I do. Oh, we can't do that, can we? Drive scan. Sometimes what I might do is I might have a folder called. In fact, let's just do it. Keep things nice and clean. Scans, and then in here we'll go new folder and drive, and let's put the date of the scan, which was 2025-08-14. And now we've got this folder and I've got my drive scan. The first thing I'm going to do is drag this FBX file. I recommend using FBX files. Other files will go in, but FBX is the best. Drag it in here, and then when we come back to Unreal, we're going to have this window. So let's do this. Skeletal. So we can ignore skeletal mesh. And the next thing we got to is create materials. Now, for this scan, we do want Unreal to create a material when it comes in. It saves us the task, basically. So we can do that. But sometimes you might want to change this to be do not create material. So let's go import all for now, and we'll see what we get. So it's created 3 files. What are these 3 files? Let's see. The first one is a static mesh. It tells you at the bottom, and there's a texture and a material. So just so we're all clear, if we open the materials, now all that's basically happening here is we've got a texture plugged in to our base color, and that's our material. We don't need to worry about materials editor for now. We'll just leave it. We trust that it works. And that, if we open the static mesh, we can see that that material is applied to our static mesh. Now, you'll see how tiny this static mesh looks. Now, that's because when they come in from Polycam, they are for some reason 1/100th, I believe, of the actual scale. So inside here, we can come down and we can go to import settings, and we'll see here we've got mesh, transform, and we can put a scale on it. So let's change it to 100. Now nothing will happen. Now we're only doing this because we know that this object is the wrong scale. We could prove that by just dragging it in, right? And remember, we can also drag in a meter cube. So if we go to basic shapes, cube, if that's a meter cube, then this drive scan is definitely incorrect, right? We can all accept that if that's a meter cube, that's definitely wrong. Now, because I've imported plenty of these before, I know that they just come in at 1/100th of the scale. So we've now added a 100 times scale on the import. Why have we done that? Why not just take it in here, and we could scale it here and go 100, and now it's the right scale, right? Now it's correct. That's right. Well, the reason is that we're going to have to do that every time we do it. Ideally, we want any asset that we use to be, when it's at scale 1, it's its real world scale. That's the preferable version of events. So we change this back, and now if I come here, because I changed it on the import transform settings, we can go right click and we can re-import. And now when it re-imports, lo and behold, it's the right size. Okay, so that's what we want. That's good. So that's it, end of video. No, I'm only kidding. It's not really. We're going to do a little bit more information on importing. So that's a pretty basic version of events, really. I mean, it's as basic an object as it can be, really. It comes in and it brings in a single material and a single texture. Let's bring our teapot in. So the teapot, I think, has come from Fab. I think it was free on Fab. So let's go teapot. Now let's bring in this. So teapot, we'll open this folder and then go teapot. Okay, so if we just use the same settings, let's see what happens. We go import. You can import or import all. Import all is for when you bring in like multiple files all at once. Okay, so it's already compliant, but never mind. That's probably fine. But look what it's done here. Now it's brought in 4 different objects and a material. No texture, that's fine. We know what the material's doing. But it's brought in 4 objects. Now, why has it done that? So if we drag all these into the thing, we can see that it makes a teapot. And that's because we dragged them all in at the same place. So what's happening is each one of these has been separated because they're separate in the original file. They're separate meshes in the original file. Now that may be what you want. That may be what you want. And if it is, then great. The reason that they've all gone together when we drag them in is because they all share this same pivot point. Do you remember the pivot point from however many lessons ago it was, basic 3D? So because they all share the same pivot point, relationally, no, they share a relationship with the pivot point, which means that actually when they all share the same transform, they actually fit together perfectly. If they all had individual pivot points, for let's say for the handle, the pivot point was in the middle, and then we drag them in, they'll just be a jumble of objects. They won't make any sense together. But because they have got the same pivot point, because they're from the same model, they will all fit together. How you want to deal with this is completely up to you, and will be situation dependent. And sometimes what I do is I bring that in like that, and then I do this. So we've got a teapot, and I might go teapot combined. Teapot combined. Okay, because we might have a scene where the handle falls off or something, and in which case it's actually quite useful that it's separate. But we also might not want to be dragging, selecting all 4 of these every single time we want to use this object. Now we could group them. So if we could right click and go group, and now we can just pick the one. So that's one option. That's perfectly fine. Perfect. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you prefer to go that route, then do it. But if you wanted to do it this way, this is also perfectly valid. We import it again. And this time we're going to choose this combine meshes. It's under the advanced tab. Combine meshes and then import. And now we get a teapot that just is a single object. So any of those is a perfectly fine solution to these issues. We don't need to worry about them. It's completely user preference and everything else. Okay, so we've imported a scan that we made in our Polycam the other day, and we've got this a 3D object. Now, what about something that's got a skeleton? Let's take a look. So if you remember, I very much like you to use Mixamo. Now we've got a bunch of Mixamo things in here already, so I'm not going to bring in the same ones. Let me just double check here. Let's do characters. So I'm going to put him in. I'm going to put him inside this structure, but we're going to bring in the Y-Bot. So Y-Bot. Okay. So now I've got my Y-Bot here, as we can see. So I drag him in. So Unreal has detected that he has a skeleton. Now, if it shared the skeleton of a different character, if they were the same, we wanted them to share a skeleton, like I do in my Mixamo pack, which you can get by joining the mailing list, click below, then we would pick that skeleton here. But because we're saying, actually, no, he's a brand new character, he's got his own skeleton, let's bring him in. Actually, is the Y-Bot a he or a she? I can't remember. They've got their own skeleton. We will leave all the other settings as they are, and we'll just click import. Okay. So what we've got here is a few different things because it has a skeleton. So there's a few other objects that come in. We've got a skeletal mesh instead of a static mesh, which is what we got with the teapot. That said static mesh. We've got two materials, That's absolutely fine. We know about that. No textures because they're just colours, and again, that's absolutely fine. We've got some other different things though. If we just say skeletal mesh is effectively the same thing as a static mesh, but it's got a skeleton, we understand that's a model. It's a mesh. So these three, we understand that we've already seen those on the other character, on the other objects that we imported. But these three are new. So what are these three? Let's take it from this side. Our skeleton is the defining object. Look, it's got a list of things here. There's a list of the bones and joints that are inside the skeleton, and we can see when we open this on the skeletal mesh, it tells us here. So this is the skeleton that it's using. This is the skeletal mesh. This is the animation that it's currently set to, and this is the physics asset. So let's look at those. The animation is basically an animated clip. You can see it's only got like one frame. It's a pose effectively, and it's just the pose that the character's been in when the character was brought in. We don't need to worry about that. You're probably very rarely going to use it. Our physics asset is, let's open this. So what a physics asset does is it defines the objects that we specify the objects that define the character's dimensions. Okay, if we draped cloth or a curtain over this character now, these sort of lilac colours, that's the area it would drape over, not the mesh. It will ignore the mesh because the mesh is too dense for it to keep. It has to check every point and polygon of the object that's going to fall over it, and every point and polygon of the object that it's intersecting with. So every point and polygon of the character. So to make that simpler, what we do is we give them these volumes. And they're capsules here in UE. Look, so because that's a mathematical, it's not got polygons. It's a mathematical shape. It's defined by an equation, and makes it much cheaper for Unreal to check whether there's any intersection going on. So that's why they exist. And what we would tend to find is, if you see here, look, this one is kind of representing the entire arm. We've only got one foot, left arm, and left hand. We'll do a lesson on this later on. It's not a big deal. I'm just telling you what these files are when they bring in, when they come in. You don't need to worry about it just yet. Unless you're going to do simulation with this, you don't need to worry about it at all. But I'm just saying that that's what it is. So that's our animation. We've got a physics asset. We've got a skeleton. We've got a skeletal mesh. Perfect. Now, what if I were to bring in my X-Bot, his lady friend? So we go new folder and we'll go X-Bot. Okay. So we've got, if we bring in X-Bot, now one of the things that would be nice is if the X-Bot and Y-Bot, because they've got effectively the same skeletons. Don't come at me over any gender thing. Like they've got the same skeletons in Unreal, and they're different colours. Yeah, whatever. So if we bring in the X-Bot, we could. Like exactly like we did before, we could say, actually, they've got the same skeleton. Do you know what? Let me just check if they do have the same skeleton, because I feel like I'm going to get myself into trouble somehow. Let's just double check. I'm going to double check in Maya, because I can just superimpose them really quickly. They don't actually have the same skeleton. I stand corrected. The skeletons are different. However, all that aside, let's say that you wanted to just arbitrarily say that they've got the same skeleton so that they can share the same animations. Because that's what we're trying to get to, is we're trying to say, are they close enough that they could actually share the same animations for previous purposes? Which I like to do. All my other characters, all these characters listed down here, male and female, are all sharing the same skeleton, and that's just so that they can all share the same animation library, which, as I've discussed on other videos, is what you get when you get my starter pack. It's just a collection of characters that share the same animations and they all share the same skeleton. If you wanted to set that up yourself, this is how it works. So we're going to bring this X-Bot in, and we're going to say that X-Bot shares the Y-Bot skeleton, and then we can click import. Okay. So a few errors, but I'm not worried about any of those. So now we can see that we've got what we've got now, we've got one less file as an imported file. Now we've not got a skeleton, and that's because it's using the other skeleton. So that's exactly as we expected, right? So finally then, the only other thing that we might import, that we tend to import on a general basis, is animations. Now these are for Y-Bot. I downloaded these for Y-Bot. This is my personal kind of library. Now I've got these with an import rotation of 90 degrees on. I'm going to take that off because we do not need it. I had that on for a reason previously that you don't need to worry about. And then we choose Y-Bot skeleton, and now we can go import. And here he is. And we've got a new animation for our Y-Bot, and we could drop Y-Bot into the scene. There he is. And we could give him our animation. And there he is. And if we were to run this in simulate mode, we would see him clapping. There he is. Now, usually we would obviously use one of these things in a sequencer file, but I'm not worried about sequencer just right now. Okay, so finally then, let's import animations en masse. The final thing to do, and when we think about importing. So if we get our animation library back, let's say we're just going to drag in all of these. Right. Pretty sure all these are for Y-Bot, but let's not worry too much. So we drag them in exactly the same way, and this time this is why the import all button is there. I've tried loads of them in, and that's stupid, isn't it? I'm going to finish this video in a minute, and I have to sit here for half an hour now while it imports all these things that I didn't need to do. Idiot. And I've run out of tea. Okay, here he goes. So now we choose Y-Bot, and we're saying that this is going to apply to all these animations, and we click import all. And here we go. I've got revision control on, which is why we're getting a lot of these errors. You shouldn't have had that on for doing these videos, but it's on now. We'll talk about revision control another time. Okay, so we now imported all these things. You can see some of them were not for that skeleton, but never mind. But that's how you do it. Right, so thank you for watching. We'll come back for the next one when we are going to be, what we're doing next. Oh, we're doing lighting next. So yeah, come back, check out the lighting video, and then we're going to get down to some cool real world viz stuff, which is going to be fun. So cool. See you down the road.